So when I learned, studied, connected, all that, I think was the time for me to truly feel um, moving from boyhood to manhood. And because it's usually around the 40s, both of my parents passed in that time too. And so the little change of lineage, um, seeing my dad pass first and then seeing my mom pass, and um, actually one of the emotions I had around her was her passing was relief, not because she had passed, but because I was carrying her still as her son. I was still son, so much that I actually felt like a weight was lifted of carrying her. And of course, I was sad and all that, um, and still it was undeniable and true that I had carried her up until her last day. And so when parents pass, I do think I realized now in the history of my family, I'm the next generation. And there's a shift in responsibility, whether we like it or not, but death is also birth, and the birth was Helge as a man.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Going Out Looking In, the podcast about the big questions of life, personal growth, and spirituality. My name is Moxie. I'm your host. Welcome back. Welcome back, Helge Hellberg. For the second time, he visited the podcast, stopped by. This time we are doing an English episode for all of you beautiful international people listening. And that is because, since we last spoke, Helge and myself, in February, I believe, the podcast went on the whole international trajectory and became, evolved and became this different animal now, with more than 50% of you tuning in from outside of Germany, from the UK, from Australia, from Canada, from the US. So many people from the US, so shout out to the US. Many people from South America, even sometimes. I'll go through the analytics. I'm like, wow, there's people listening on Cuba. There's people listening in Havana. There's people listening in Thailand, in Mumbai. It's insane. It's crazy when I'm thinking about it. Then even in Poland, in Russia, in Lithuania, in Estonia, sorry. So just incredible. And that all being said, it's my absolute pleasure to welcome once again Helge Hellberg. Now, for all of you who didn't listen and watch the first episode, I give you a brief summary of his life, basically, or his vita. So Helge is an international executive coach, currently residing in Hamburg. And his life is just a beautiful example of, doing more than and pursuing more than one path in life. So he basically started off by being a professional musician. He had one of the biggest and most successful a cappella bands in Germany in the 90s. He then went on to over to the US to work in the food industry, in the organic space, for I believe 10 or 15 years, and worked in as a manager there, to then only to return to Germany to really dedicate himself and his work and his time to coaching and to the deeper topics of life. So Helge is a lay-ordained Buddhist teacher. He studied Jungian psychology. He studied shamanism. He studied yoga, nutrition, holistic health, and is basically combining all of the different teachings in his very unique approach. And he's a very seasoned coach. He's a very seasoned individual, if I may say. Just a wise man. And so for me, as you know, me being on the journey into manhood, those conversations with men who are at a stage where I basically want to be at sometimes in the future, not if there's any point of arrival, but this development, this evolution, and some steps ahead, the people are some steps ahead where I can just ask curiously what I want to explore and want to learn about myself. Is just a very special and unique opportunity to do so on this podcast. So I really enjoyed this episode. We went deep again on the archetypes, on the healing power of the archetypes, because they are an essential part of Helge's work. Why that is and how he incorporates that, we explore that. We talked about the house of life with all of its 10 departments. And also a healthy, a loving, a nurturing relationship to our parents and how to cultivate that and why that is so important. Taking responsibility for yourself. Yeah. It's something that, because I attended a workshop of Helge earlier this year and just a couple of months ago, and it was profoundly powerful, and it did so much. It initiated a whole different level of relationship with my dad. And so, yeah, it's very powerful to take responsibility for your own life and get really curious about the story, the life, the struggles, just the human behind your parents. And the healing that comes with that, and the doors that you open by doing that, by initiating that process within yourself, is really valuable, and I recommend that to everyone. So we talk about that, we talk about relationships in general, and just that there's no way around accountability and looking at yourself. The differentiation between ego and worldly desires and stuff like that. And so needs, I would say, values, and then ego, how can we differentiate the two? Because it is a very important distinction that has to be made. So all of those beautiful things we talked about, I'm sure you get something out of this, a lot out of this. And I can only, once again, really recommend this work, especially with Helge. Like I said, he's a very seasoned coach. He knows what he's talking about. He lived through it. He's embodying that. And for me, that's powerful. Talking, that's all nice and fine. But, if somebody really walks the talk, embodies the teachings, I respect those kind of people. And so I respect Helge tremendously in his work. Absolute pleasure to sit down with him. His way of thinking, his knowledge, his wisdom. So good. And then, like I said, even in the English language, it offers a unique sort of way of expressing oneself. And so we both really enjoyed not having to speak German in this episode. So this one's for all of you international people. Helge Hellberg, it was an absolute joy. Thank you so much for being here once again. Quickly, I dropped the line, if you enjoy the show, hit the thumbs up, share it with friends, pass on the word, rate the podcast on Spotify or wherever you're listening. It just takes a couple of seconds, guys. Just a couple of seconds of your valuable time. Please. It really helps me. It helps us, and get bigger guests and la la la. So would mean the world to me. That all being said, beautiful insights with this episode, and much love from my heart to yours. With this episode on Helge Hellberg. I'm so much looking forward to this episode and to do it in English for all of my extended soul family of the podcast, all the new people who since we last spoke joined this community. And so I'm very happy to have you on once again, Helge. So nice to share space and time with you.
Yeah, thank you. Lovely. It needs the guest, it needs the platform, it needs the audience. So we are all in this together in this consciousness movement. And yeah, thanks for having me again. Beautiful.
Mm, yeah, thank you. So, yeah, I guess, a lot of stuff happened, at least when I'm looking at my life since we last spoke. So I just would like to start and ask you how you're doing. What's alive within you?
How are you doing is the bigger question. Yes, you did have a lot of changes and developments. There is an age difference between us two, and even though one says you continue learning, which is absolutely true, the more time you get to spend on this planet with yourself, the more you either accept your, um, your faults, your defaults, your whatever, your way of being, and of course you get closer to knowing what you love. So there is, if that's why I love this work so much. You are on a way of inner peace if you continue learning and growing, because you're finding yourself at the end. Um, and if that is a peaceful meeting of self, yeah, I think then you did well in your life.
Mm,
So I'm at a good place. I
mm,
love what I do. It's not always perfect, but yeah, I've gotten to know myself on a level I didn't know 30 years ago that that was even possible or what that would look like. And yeah, it's wonderful.
beautiful. Mm. Yeah, I know. I mean, I've now gotten to know you personally as well, and I feel like that's just another layer of mm, yeah, meeting someone and seeing someone, and then also having the opportunity to see what life and the life that you lived in particular mm, did for you on all levels, emotionally, spiritually, physically. So there's an energy coming from you, and when I'm seeing and meeting you in person, I'm able to step into that space, and so I can see that you've done a lot of work on yourself, and that life shaped you in that way. Yeah.
Thank you. But don't forget that it's you who's stepping into that space. Like it's both true, right? We say, um, I mean, ultimately, life is entirely about you, about Moxie. If the 20 top chefs in this world cook you the top 20 meals that have ever been cooked, right? It's the best 20 meals that have ever been created, and you don't like any of them, then that's so. There is only a maxi reality. Like you have to decide what is true for you. So it's this life is entirely about you, which we're not talking about ego. And even though ego is a beautiful word, actually, I think it's quite misunderstood. But it has to fit to Moxie's likings and level of safety and needs for security. And like this is your life. This has to be all about you in that sense. And yin and yang. We do manifest in the presence of the other. You do manifest in the presence of these 20 meals in front of you to say, that's interesting, but these 19 I don't like at all. That defines you. So when we step into the presence of somebody else, positive or negative, challenging or boring or whatever it is, right? When you stepped into the presence of my workshop in that sense 2 months ago, uh, or in that case, it is you who's stepping into it. So you manifest in the presence of the other. We do manifest in the presence of the other, whether it's a meal or a person or a workshop. And yes, it was a wonderful workshop, and I love doing it. And I do have a specific joy of doing it. And it is nevertheless you who's having the experience.
Mm,
And that's actually, funnily enough, peace of mind for me. If you come to me after a workshop and say, Helge, this was life changing, the most amazing workshop I've ever done, I would be truly happy for you, not for me. I would truly be happy that you had that experience. If you say this sucked, I really didn't like it, you had that experience. I need to go home and say, I enjoyed it. I thought it was good in these areas. This I will change next time and try something else that was fun, but that was very spontaneous. Or these two moments I will transform, leave out, whatever. Like at the end of the day, I need to be okay with the workshop. If I'm measuring my success or my judgment of the workshop by the feedback of others, it's classically called codependence.
Mm.
Then I'm basically hoping that I was good enough for you to say this was awesome. Oh, great, thank you, Dad. Like that's an old story of affirmation from the outside that we actually this in this lifetime, that's what it's all about, to get away from the outside approval. To It's possible that you say this was amazing, the workshop was fantastic, and I feel like, yeah, it was really good, but there are 7 areas I will do better and different next time. I need to measure myself against that, right? And so if it's your experience, and I completely get that, and I'm truly happy that you had that experience, if it's great, or you had it if it didn't work for you. I'm kind of detached myself, or in another way, I created much more freedom for myself to measure my life on my own terms. Nobody
Mm.
will tell me what is right or good or bad. Like if I didn't like it, I didn't like it. If I loved it and it didn't work, okay, then I need to change things. But it's my conversation with me, with
Yeah.
everything, actually, funnily enough, with every aspect of life. House of Life, right? 10 rooms, friends, job, love, relationships. Well, it's all relationships, but or how I'm relating. But yeah, my entire outside world. How do I relate to rain? How do I relate to sun? Sometimes rain is amazing and you make yourself a tea, and sometimes you look outside and say, wow, I wanted to go, bike riding and it's dangerous in the rain. I can't do it. So the rain itself, it's just rain. It's just water falling from the sky. We make our reality. And that's beautiful and freeing when at least it was for me, when I finally chose that.
Yeah.
I'm the master of my own life in that way,
Mm.
emotionally. If I suffer, it has nothing to do with the outside.
Yeah, like Michael Singer says, the moment in front is not bothering you. You are bothering yourself about the moment in front of you.
Yeah, or even to top that, you're bothering the moment. The rain feels judged if you say, you're stupid, right? Or you partner or whatever, right? Because yesterday the rain was amazing and cozy. So obviously the rain is innocent here.
Yeah.
The rain is just rain.
It's the same, yeah. Or when you think of, like, yeah, it's always like the picture of the farmer coming up. The farmer would pray for rain. It would be like, oh my God, it's raining. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's never
And
the
after
thing.
9 days, the farmer will pray for the rain to stop. Like
Yeah,
it needs to fit to the farmer. The rain is just rain. You
yeah,
asked me to come. Now I'm here for 2 weeks, and you should celebrate that I'm here for 2 weeks, and now it's too much. Like we set the boundaries. We think it's too spicy, or the partner is too annoying, or not challenging enough, or doesn't do his or her own work, or if they only, and actually it's only us. It's only our relationship to it.
mm.
It's
Yeah. I
our
was
impatience. It's our, hoping that the world will change. It's our, whatever, lack of boundary.
Yeah, I obviously in the podcast preparation for this episode, I went back into my book, which I took to the workshop, and I read through it, and I went through our first conversation, and I looked at my life, and now just like 10 minutes in, I'm again reminded when speaking with you that, and this is one of the major takeaways from that workshop, it's a feeling of undivided responsibility for myself. I cannot put it any other way. Like I left this workshop. Yeah, I left this workshop with an immense boost in taking responsibility for myself. To a degree that I haven't actually experienced before. Like it really, by what you said and how you also direct certain conversations and ways of thinking, when we as participants, for example, put our thoughts into words, you will know what I'm talking about. You always underscore, this is like you did, like this is your, what is your experience, you know? When we like generalize things, you will say it's not like we, or you know, the public or something. It's
One
you.
should.
One
Yeah,
should.
I
Yeah, it's
know.
like
It's my
you.
favorite line. Yeah, one always, no, who? Yes, you? Do
Exactly.
you or do you not?
Yeah, so
Mm.
that's like such a, and because we did that over the 2 days, like to such an intense degree, and then we always obviously, you know, did the exercises and stuff, where also then it was about self discovery. It really was like sort of this muscle was trained again and again and again, and so now when after I left it, I made two major choices in my life, like a big choices of my life, which really focused around myself, but my personal fulfillment, my happiness. Certainly not easy decisions, but decisions that needed to be made in order for me to step into my power. And that is thanks to your work. And I just wanted to quickly emphasize that, because it already showed now in the first couple of minutes that this is an essential part of your work.
Yeah. And of course, I would say it's also your courage to come to a workshop to face that. You made the decision after all, right? Yes, we can invite. Yes, we can be that environment as coaches or therapists or whatever, even though coaching for me is a little bit more active than therapy. Therapy for me is more understanding. Coaching is more learning, knowing who you are and maybe even why, but then turning it into a new muscle, turning it into action, into concrete, um, yeah, movement, intentional design about your life as you did. Um, and just to give the framework, um, we did this 2 day, or I give 2 day workshops on archetypes and personal responsibility in all parts of life. And yes, and I thought the most amazing for me, the highlight of the workshop, or what was so sweet and telling, was when workshop participants, when you um, made an affirmation or promise, a commitment in front of everyone else, and every single person stepped a foot back by saying that, by speaking of I will, and what do? We move away from it, because we do, I believe, hide for good reasons. It's sometimes really scary work and we haven't learned it and it's a muscle. But we do hide between one should, people do, we, right? Whatever. There is no we and I, it's my life. I need to make decisions. And the more we come to ourselves, which is what we want the most, but it's also the scariest and seemingly loneliest
Yeah.
place, until you discover when you're there that you're actually alone, but you're not lonely because you have your inner child. Like you have your emotional well-being with you. It just changes in its relationship. You become the source instead of the source being on the outside for your happiness. And but that part, that transition from my safety and my well-being is dependent on how my environment functions, to no, I'm in my environment certainly, but I define my well-being and my safety in it. There is a transition, it's called the Valley of Tears, where you realize how little we have um, in our development really acted on our absolute truth, self-responsible best behalf. We couldn't, we didn't know. But when you realize that, that's why Valley of Tears, you go through a phase where your focus on the outside of how you're doing to the focus on the inside of what you want to do and how you want to feel and what you want to create becomes so obvious. And yeah, exactly. And if you do that for 2 days intensely, only for 2 days, even though for 30 or 40 or 50 years we haven't done it that way. I mean, I see transformations in my work and my coaching. I've coached some 500 plus people over the last 14 years, and it's unbelievable. My oldest client, 74, when he started, now 78. He said, I can't change my life, but I changed every every single relationship I changed in myself, and with that on the outside. I will die a happy man one day. And that is, it's just incredible. After 2 intense days, you can turn this muscle into full self-responsibility, and then you're on a path truly of self and with self. And that leads to a fulfilling and happy life and a happy death at the end of our lives. And I
Mm.
think there's nothing more important.
Absolutely. I wholeheartedly agree. And it's challenging. Like, I just want to also emphasize that again. Like, I yeah, like we talk about this on the podcast from all kind of different angles and variations. But also when we talk about spirituality and healing, this is so far from easy, from nice, like good feeling, unicorns, rainbows, sunshine. It's so far from that. Like there will be aspects of that, but oh my god! And like this is also why, for me, in my personal journey right now, it's the phoenix rising from the ashes. How many tears I had to cry, how much pain I had to bear, and I still do.
How often do I have to scream into the pillow because you did it again?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, really, as beautiful as this life design of pregnancy and um, reception and giving birth, we don't even know who's giving birth, right? Is it the mom or is it the baby? Chemically, it's still not fully proven or discovered. Is the baby giving the impulse to the mom saying, I'm ready? Or is the mom's body saying, child, you got to go now? Or is there a third form? Like in the transformation of a caterpillar, there's a third stasis where it's neither um,
Mm.
caterpillar nor butterfly. It's chemically and biologically, genetically, neither. It's unbelievable. So same with baby and mom in the human form. We don't know what exactly happens still. Really, science has not proven who initiates actually the birth. Um, but the life's design, fair to say, is completely wrong. I can't come up with a better form because you have to have two people, woman gets pregnant, life is being born. But in that really wrong design of self development, we are born into total codependency. You were codependent, you were dependent at least on your parents meeting, you were dependent on them having sex, you were dependent on your mom giving birth, you came in there somehow then as Moxie. And from the even while she was pregnant, whatever she was eating, reading, emotionally absorbing, seeing in the news, you got full force. Like you were the result of your mom's life. Total dependency. If she cared well, great. If she had one little sip of wine, you felt it a minute later. Garlic, bad news, whatever. Emotionally, you would have stress. I mean, absolute just the result of their doing. If she did well, you did well. If she didn't, you didn't. Then we are born and the umbilical cord gets cut. First healthy form of boundary because you couldn't live with a mom on your umbilical cord for the rest of your life. So that gets cut. Healthy masculine creates a boundary, beautiful. But a second later, you realize you're just as dependent on your mother's breast, on feeding, on warmth, on cuddling, on whatever, or at least on that feminine nourishment, could be your dad too, and on safety of the masculine, saying all wolves and bears, please stay out, right? Whatever. Um, so 1 minute old, even though you were born and even though you were no longer a physical part of your mom's body, you were still absolutely 100% dependent. If you were left alone for 5 hours, you would most likely die. You would freeze to death. You would get eaten by whatever, um, or you would starve. Like that's it. That's life's design. And then we learn, of course, what's left. I mean, as a literally as a 6 months old, you cannot go to work, earn some money and buy yourself bread, right? So you're growing up for the first 2, 3, 4, 5 years in absolute dependency. So all you can learn is to manipulate how to manipulate best this dependency so that you ensure it to the highest degree. So we We become the rebel against our dad, or we become dad's best friend, or super cute, or we become a total mother child. Like we make sure whatever we need, we either secure nourishment or we secure attention by being really bratty. Whatever strategy we have, it's our strategy because if we are really good at that, to make sure the nourishment of the feminine and the protection of the masculine is guaranteed. Because we
Mm-hmm.
never, and it's true, actually, it's actually true. It's not just a belief. At 5 years old, it is true that your life depends on the masculine protection and the feminine nourishment. And with that, 5 years of training, cool, we start to go to school and we have a nice teacher that really likes us or that gets our attention if we don't do our homework, or like we just live out this manipulation, what we've learned how to safely go through life. Some kids become really good, some become really bad, some become creative, for themselves, involved, whatever. We create these worlds in which we believe this is the safest state in relationship to the outside, keeping us safe and nourishing us. And then, as you know, 10 years old, 11 years old, we call it the teenage years because we realize this system on the outside, parents, they have fights, they get divorced, whatever. It's neither safe nor perfect the way we thought. Mom was in a bad mood. She didn't give us nourishment when we were 5, 6, 7 years old. We have had significant experiences where neither the nourishment nor the safety was actually perfect for us in that moment. We were disappointed, and then we go out in the world and we learn to first job, second job, first boss, second job, first boyfriend, second girlfriend, whatever. We look for that in various forms to make sure we get the nourishment that we once felt with our mom, most likely, and that the safety that we once felt with our dad.
Mm.
And then we're disappointed in the first boss and the second boss because they promoted somebody else, and so we keep going through life looking on the outside to make it right, to finally find the perfect partner. And when we think we do, we marry because that partner is just perfect. It's complete. It has all these qualities that we were looking for. Oh, awesome. But it's the partner that has these qualities, still not us. We're still absolutely dependent or even codependent because at this point we have started to change our behavior to to further ensure that that partner really likes us. We stop saying no, we stop saying yes, we whatever. Um, and our subconscious knows that we are dependent, if not codependent. Like we, you know, become a version of what we believe that they like, so that we ensure their presence and their love,
Yeah.
and with that, our safety. And what happens? We get a divorce or we break up until we finally, at one point, realize something that has never happened or been indicated before, other than through a book, but it was never in our experience, that the only person who's 24/7 for the rest of our lives responsible for our well being and our protection is ourselves. It's us. And when that happens, it's such a wake up call. And if we can cultivate that, and if we can truly go through life with ourselves in our hand, as I said, we're never alone again anymore. Um, we make the right decisions. We can say yes freely. We can say no, even though it might be hard because it's a muscle and it needs to be really practiced, but we are able to say no. Because of that, we harvest our free yes. We can relate. We don't feel trapped. We live a life that is expanding and evolving, and we feel free while we are in relationship. I think that's the mastery. And we have that in moments when we break up, and then so the first 4 months alone afterwards, right, we're with ourselves again, and there is something really sweet and good, and then we look for the next partner, because we do need to learn it in partnership. I believe anyone can be alone. I don't think that's the highest goal.
Mm.
The goal is to be by yourself, with yourself, and free and happy with somebody else. But for that, you need to not surrender who you are. Otherwise, that person will not make you happy. So it's an entirely wrong life design in a way. Whoever came up with it, it's much better as a duck if you were laid in an egg and you never met your parents, like ideally. That's why it's so cool, right? When ducks hatch out of the egg and they see you as the first parent, well, actually, it's not that different. They run after you. So it's just a replacement of it's not mother duck or father duck. If they see a dog, the dog will be the father and mother, right? Recognized. So there's, as far as I know, um, there's no life design because birth has to happen with that. There is an instant dependency. You are young and little and fragile and need protection and need nourishment. Like there is no, we can't jump the child stage. And because of that, there is a dependency on the outside world. But then we need to move it around to self responsibility. I don't know how else to do it. Like we can't be born as adults, obviously. But it is an interesting life's design. It can't work in that sense. We just need to know that it doesn't work. We need to know that this is the hero's return. This is the hero's journey. We all have to go through it. You have to go outside of parenthood into the world to realize you're coming back to you who started separating from your parents. You were just looking for the wrong thing.
Yeah,
You were looking for
beautiful.
substitute parents and not for yourself. But yeah, eventually at 55 or so, this should be closed, and you should have returned to yourself. That's what the midlife crisis is about. We think it's about, men who work too hard, buy a Porsche, and get a girlfriend. It's not. It's totally misunderstood. So many things in society are misunderstood. Sorry, I'm speaking a lot, but it's so clear and obvious. I think when at 40 we realize, wow, I'm working my butt off, 100-hour weeks, and it's still not working. I'm in this marriage, but I can't seem to really truly be myself. And this young woman makes me feel alive. It reminds me of my younger years. And I'm not saying it's good, but it's totally logical. I mean, it makes total sense. And behind it is the questioning of the outside happiness. What do? We buy a Porsche and get a girlfriend, and that does not do the trick. Let me tell you, again reiteration of work is crazy. I should have more fun. The idea of fun is right, though. That's the beauty. It's just not that fun. It's running around. I mean, it can be nothing against a great car, but it is about reconnecting to your inner child and then truly asking what truly makes me happy.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I very much resonate with what you're sharing, and it takes me back to the journey of like when I was first introduced to your work, what's happening now, and the difference between walking into a room and seeing and feeling. There's so many instances, so many examples I could give right now where subconsciously it's not like, oh yes, I'm going back on my book and now I'm using the warrior. It just naturally happens. For example, with this podcast, now people start approaching me and they're like asking, hey, is this relevant for you? I have like, so for example, agencies, and they pitch guests to me that might be, interesting for me. And I'm at a stage where, so if you would have asked me like 6 months ago, obviously would have said yes to anyone. Basically, I was just like, oh wow, I'm honored and stuff. And now this like healthy thank you, and I don't feel this
Maybe not,
resonance.
or that's right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is something that was, oh my, that was so far from what I could have ever imagined me saying, me speaking out. And this is obviously not personally against somebody. It's just like, do I really for myself feel resonance there? Yes or no? And because like what you just like so beautifully shared, and like how you combine it with like our biology and like how we are raised and the whole journey that we go through, it's so important because it just like I think emphasizes so beautifully the utter and the hardwiredness of how deeply rooted that dependency is, and therefore how sometimes long and hard the journey is to again return to ourselves. But then again, I feel like for me, when we spoke about it via email with the initiation into manhood, that's for me what separates the boys from the men. But I would be so curious actually to explore this with you, because I more and more feel like this is it. Helge, it's changing my whole life. Becoming a man for me, changing my whole life. I'm reevaluating everything. Like, what does that even mean for me? Like, and there are so many areas in my life where I'm still like, I'm a boy. I am a boy. And it's not, it doesn't live up to where I want to be as a man. It's not, it doesn't match. And so I would be curious. Like, there's a couple of aspects I would like to explore there. Archetypes also, like, when did they come into your life, and why archetypes? Why are they the technique and the route that you came back to with your workshops? But before, maybe also explore a little bit, what does that mean for you, cultivating the masculine and really becoming a man? What does that mean for you?
Who said I'm a man? Okay, no, but what I do want to what I do want to point out is, um, you said when somebody asked, "Hey, we have a guest here for you," you said, "Thank you so much," but and I don't resonate with that. The gift that you say thank you, or that you say thank you, means that you are not missing the gift of what's happening. Just as a mini
Mm-hmm.
praxis for the listeners, or the viewers of this podcast, how often when somebody says, "Hey," even a friend, right? "Do you have time next Friday for dinner?" What do? We look at our calendar and say, "Ah, no, I can't." Instead of saying, "Thank you for asking. Thank you that you want to spend your Friday with me." And not just because we say it, because we feel it. Life is throwing stuff at us, every single one a gift, even if the gift is to say no. But it's beautiful that you ask. So, one could say, "Oh my God, why are these people asking me if like this, whatever dog trainer, so related but not?" Of course, I need to say no. It could We decide if we see this as a nuisance and as an annoyance, that we are asked something that doesn't resonate with us, or at least we go right into, "No, next Friday I can't," instead of saying, "Wow, you friend who I really love wants to spend next Friday with me. I'm so gifted things every day." But we intellectually say practically, "No, Friday is bad, sorry." And we almost feel bad saying no, because we can't say clearly no. Why is that? Because we are robbing ourselves of the beauty of the question. And
Yeah.
when we say that, I do want to be present with you, and I wouldn't be because Saturday morning is a big whatever. It doesn't even need to be that we don't have time, but how much can we honor ourselves in honoring the other? Um, like if we're in a conversation and we're having it because we know the other person, for the other person it's really important, and we are not present. Many of us stay in it. I used to stay in it because I felt like the other person needs me. I want to listen. I'm here, but I'm actually also thinking about this other thing. And instead of saying, "Hey, I can't listen to you," to say, "I want to listen to you. I want to listen to you. I want to be fully present." And I'm realizing now I can't do that right now, but I really want to. It's called, intrinsically opposed emotional needs. I want to take care of this thing, and I want to be fully present, and both are not possible. So I'm saying no because of my love, actually, not because I don't care or I don't like it or I don't want it. I want it. It's just not possible. So I need to say no to this conversation right now because I want to be 200% ready and present for you. That's that's how much I love you, and that's how important this conversation is. And please let me take care of this other thing first so that I can be present to you. Like, if we see our no's, if we really look at them, we will find a yes or a love for something else that in that moment has priority, which doesn't mean that, we don't love that thing. But many of us, I have walked around this life saying yes and no. I can't do this conversation, or I can't meet Friday. I'm doing this instead of seeing the gift of life and coming from, I so want to have this conversation. Thank you for asking. And I'm busy with something else and I want to be fully present. I want that for you. Like I want that from me for you. I wouldn't be happy with myself. Whatever. If you think 50% of Helge is enough, great. I don't think that. I don't. Like it needs to be my standard. And I can do that in 4 hours. Cool. Right now I can't. Great. Um, if we come to that place of seeing the love underneath every action and even every no, you don't want to take a guest's time that you don't resonate with. You wouldn't honor him or her in the same way you honor guests
Yeah,
with your time and presence that you feel are a great fit.
absolutely.
And in your responsibility for the audience, you even need to do that. I mean, it's like your entire kingdom is dependent on Maxi lovingly saying no because they deserve the full attention of a host who can't sleep because they're so excited to have them. If that's our standard, right, what we go to for, wow, amazing, you will have a great life. And
Absolutely.
your listeners will resonate with that and the guests will understand and like, can we truly be the love that we all feel and fully stand behind it? And if we don't like the dish, we don't like the dish, but this one I'm actually flying in for, whatever. Like if we live that passionate life, um, I believe we're on a very aligned and healthy uh, course
Mm.
path. Um, in that archetypes that I work with, which are hundreds and hundreds of years old, tarot dates back to whatever, and whether it was a card game at first or not, but the symbolism of things, archetypes like mother, father, king, warrior, lover, right, wise fool, wizard. These are all archetypes because they all contain a very specific set of values behind them. And Carl Jung, then a psychologist and maybe even philosopher, um, uh, then took these archetypes, looked at the values behind it, and applied all that to modern psychology. And when I heard about it, studied it, I studied Jungian psychology. I resonated with it so heavily because it made so much sense for me after everything I've done, psychology, nutrition, mind, body, heart, spirit, as you said, work with Native Americans and like every religion, Buddhism, I'm a lay-ordained Buddhist teacher, everything came together at the end to form around archetypes and behavior in psychology in the world of emotions, intellect, physical presence, and spirituality. It just was the last missing link. Um, and the quick dive is how much king energy do we possess, right? How do we conduct ourselves? How do we hold ourselves? Leading in a team or your own life um, needs elements of the quality of a king. Like you need to be making decisions that you know affect everyone, good or bad, but you need to make decisions. You have responsibility for your kingdom, like a good king. Um, and for that, you need to be able to say no and set a boundary. That's the warrior. How do you, how elegant are you in saying no? Can you say, I would love to, thank you for asking, and it wouldn't be honoring you if I said yes to this now, so I need to be right back to king. The warrior sets the boundary to support the king, as in real life, as in every film. Um, anyway, so we don't need to go through all five archetypes, but the archetypes for me, because they're archetypes, king means king in England, in Germany, and in Papua New Guinea, right? It just like the tribal king has the same values of
Mm.
grandeur and stature and decision-making power, and in its heart and mind, the most just well-being of his people and a kingdom. And I'm not saying it's good or bad to have monarchy. I'm saying this king energy in us is a very specific um, literally energy, not just intellectual understanding of it. And how do we hold ourselves? Like even physically, right? How much do we walk around with our chin up and our shoulders back, and how large do we make ourselves? And ultimately, it doesn't matter how you really, as long as you feel it and are present to it. The actual posture, whatever your king is fine. But do you feel king-like when you walk through life? Do you have your boundaries ready as a warrior, as a good readiness warrior when you walk through life? Are you the active lover? Like, do you initiate? Do you say thank you? Do you say, oh, wait with a parking spot? Yes, bicycle, go by. Okay, now you can go. Sure, love you too. Like, how do you, right? How do you hold these values in you actively? Is such a key and such a tool for me that my entire coaching is based around that now. And funnily enough, I coach in 11 countries in 4 continents between Japan, East Coast, West Coast of the United States, and all over Europe. Every single client resonates to these archetypes. They're so in us, it's so fun. Yeah, that we all know what a king or a warrior or a wise fool is.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so when I learned, studied, connected, all that, I think was the time for me to truly feel um, moving from boyhood to manhood. And because it's usually around the 40s, both of my parents passed in that time too. And so the little change of lineage, um, seeing my dad pass first and then seeing my mom pass, and um, actually one of the emotions I had around her was her passing was relief, not because she had passed, but because I was carrying her still as her son. I was still son so much that I actually felt like a weight was lifted of carrying her. And of course, I was sad and all that, um, and still it was undeniable and true that I had carried her up until her last day. And so when parents pass, I do think I realized now in the history of my family, I'm the next generation. And there's a shift in responsibility, whether we like it or not, but death is also birth, and the birth was Helge as a man.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not better or worse, right? Like if you have this Moxie young, boyish energy, I hope you never lose it. It's like I cultivate that through dancing, for example, 3 times a week. It's wonderful. It's the most beautiful, cherished. It's your emotional state. It's your inner fool. It's great. Um, we do run the risk if we don't learn to contain it and to take care of it and to have boundaries into this Peter Pan
Yeah.
model, right? Like the ever young. There are some men that we all know or heard of that at 70 are still, kind of the boyish but never turned into man, um, not clear with women, lots of relationships, whatever. Like I just know I don't want to be that. I want to know I can commit, and I want to know I'm present, and I'm not thinking about somebody else when I'm with somebody, and like that's all important to me. It doesn't need to be. I'm not saying it's more right, but I see these ever young men that are not happier in themselves, as far as I know, that have not learned to contain or take care better of their inner child. I think
Yes.
that union is the key for me, at least the way I understand it. Adult Helge can take off child Helge really well, and we have a blast every day. Like that's the point, I think. Um,
Yeah.
so don't lose that. It's not bad. It's not transitioning from, not at all actually, transitioning from Moxie Boy to Moxie Man. It's learning to be the father and the mother, the nourishment and the boundary, the protection, so that your inner little Moxie can play safely and full out. That's what
Mm.
it's about.
Yeah, it makes me quite emotional to um, just like go there with myself while you're talking and see what it does to me. My because like both of my parents are alive, so I feel like this relationship is also very much changing right now as I'm changing and as I'm maturing. I'm just thinking about the workshop, writing like a letter to my dad. Yeah, that certainly kicked off like some stuff for me, and it initiated like some sort of different level of relationship with my dad ever since then. And so we are speaking in a different way right now. Um, and I'm very, it still takes a lot of time. It's not, I cannot skip certain steps that we both have to go through and heal. Um, but like it certainly opened like a specific room to a relationship that wasn't there before. And now we are both sort of ready to explore that, and we have another hopefully 20 years together, so at least. So I'm,
And
yeah, so
just to
much
be
looking forward to that.
clear, he did a lot of things not right the way Moxie needed them, right? Undeniably, are our parents perfect or good? Even like in parenthood, have they gone to parenting school and did it, a B plus? No, they did
Yeah,
the best they could. I believe that, and it might have not been enough, often enough, fair. Um, and they do love us. I think that's true. And in all cases, I don't know any parent who really doesn't deep down love their kids. Um, and yes, they did tons of stuff wrong. I get it. And still, we walk around in our lives, often for our entire life, as the disappointed child,
yeah,
still blaming
so
them,
much.
even though we are already 40 or 50 or 60, really, as they've done everything wrong. I'm totally upset still. My inner child is still upset with them. And I, as an adult, cannot grow up in front of my parents because that would mean eye level conversations, right? Really, as adults. Or as I say, when we visit our parents, the archetype that stays in the car is the king. We walk in as sons or daughters again, and we relive this disappointment of childhood for 30 years, no problem. Wow, we're so good at it. And their life doesn't make sense, and they don't talk to one another anymore, and it's not the marriage we want. And in our emotional judging of what's not right and how unfair this all is and how they can't talk, we often miss that we are the ones that are not walking in as adults. We are the ones that are not creating something new. We are the ones that can't say, wow, I was so long so upset with how little I took care of myself, but now I'm taking care of myself and I don't want another weekend where we have nothing to say. And I brought some photos of my last vacation and I would love to show you. And I want to have a better relationship with you, dad or mom or whatever. Like, we can absolutely, in many instances, create a totally new relationship to our parents. And yes, it's unbelievable because the disappointment of them not being protection and nourishment is so deeply rooted until we don't want to walk through life like that anymore. And it's not about
Absolutely.
forgiving them, but it's about seeing the power of what can we actually create even with our parents.
Yes. Yeah, the most direct takeaway I can name is just that I wanted my mom to go to your workshop, for example, because that's, or not like I wanted her to, but I wanted to open up a room and invite her to eventually go in when she feels like it. And actually, she did resonate with it, which I'm so happy about and so proud of her. Um, Now she's on
Yeah, don't
vacation
don't
and
run the mistake believing that everything that worked for you should work for her and she should do
absolutely,
it. And if she fails in it and doesn't go, see, there you go. I mean, we just collect data how right we are and how wrong they are by saying, I want to help them. I bought them a new car or I showed them assisted living, whatever. Like, it is always the parents at the end of our doing because actually we want them to change. Let's just say they don't change. Can we can we bring photos? Can we say we miss them? Can we say, I so wished when I was young that you would have supported me differently? And you didn't, and I want to stop blaming you for it because I can't change my past, but I can change our relationship today. I can change it. I'm that powerful. Cool. Like that's the way.
Mm,
I hope your mom never comes to my workshop based on your invitation, because it would mean that you were a good influence on her changing. While that's beautiful, as a son that is so close to being messy, I wouldn't want that. I want
mm.
her to come because she wants to. And of course, if she comes, awesome. But yeah,
No, I get what
we
you're
don't
saying.
we
Yeah.
we don't want to change our parents. If that's what we're trying, wrong path, guaranteed, because they won't. They will not change in a way that will make our childhood better.
Although I had the feeling like just me changing does so much
Yeah,
already.
that's the point, right? And
Yeah.
we can say, hey, I would have so loved for you to come to one game of mine, Dad, or to hug me and say you're proud of me. And today, while that might feel nice, I don't need it anymore. I'm proud of myself, and I can hug you. And sometimes they're totally startled by all that, right? It might even be too much. It's no longer about their reaction.
Mm-hmm.
Are you cool and at peace standing at their grave one day? That's the question that you need to answer for yourself.
Mm.
Or will you still stand at their grave and say, and you guys failed? Okay, wow. I hope that creates peace of mind for yourself. Peace of mind is possible, but as you said, it's super hard and it's a lot of work to come into full self responsibility.
Yeah. Yeah. I cannot also describe it because cognitively I understand it perfectly. Like I think I understand the mechanic, and yet there comes a situation eye to eye with my dad telling him simply that I love him. Okay, well, uh, it's not so easy, is it? Um,
It depends on if you want a reaction. If you are hoping for a reaction by saying that, it's still you who's hoping for a reaction. What can he do? If
yeah.
Moxie wants to be kind to your dad, then you need to ask yourself, who's your dad? And what do you want to know about him? And what do you want to share about you? Like, how can you truly show yourself? How can you be interested as if you were meeting him at a playground as a new friend, like that level? How was his first love? Was that your mom? What was his greatest victory in life? What was his greatest failure? What was the greatest moment of shame? Over time, you guys can actually talk about stuff where you feel like at the end, when you stand at his grave, I got to know him a little. Like we have to, curiosity is such a key point when it comes to parents. What is the stuff that they don't know about you that you want to share, but not, can I emotionally pull them? Not saying you're doing that,
Yeah.
and I would watch that you say say I love you and you just can't do it. That's just another form, another color on the same pig of proving them wrong, of disappointment. But what do you not know about your dad? What was his coolest solo vacation trip? Did he ever take his bike? Where? How was that? Who did he meet? What did he say? What did he talk about? Why does he like this certain kind of music? Or like, what is he associated with? There's a world I got to know about my dad. Then, like, what? You, the person that is the least sportive, like, took his bike nonstop. I love bike riding, but he took his bike nonstop from Hamburg to the Black Forest to see my mom when they were dating. It's like 400 kilometers or something. They didn't stop. I mean, they had breaks, but they didn't sleep. He and his brother just took the bikes. I'm still working on my, 100-mile trip or whatever, 120 miles. It's the absolute most, and I was dead. Um, he, he rode twice as far. How cool! Like anyway, there are worlds back then, and we will realize it was a different time, different life, different um, circumstances, and same love, same longing, same journey of life, and they've
Yeah.
come as far as they could. Not good, not perfect, yes, not right for us in so many ways. And it is life design, doesn't matter, that we have to come to our own self responsibility at the end with any parent. Even if you had great parents, you have to come to self responsibility. That's not always easier, right? If you had an amazing childhood, some clients said, "There's nothing wrong about my dad." Yeah, well, that's why it's so hard to say no. That's why it's so hard to when they say, "Oh, we're coming this weekend." Yay, no. Can you hear this little voice that actually says, "No, this weekend I want to be by myself." But they're so nice and they were so supportive. Can I say no to them? Uh, wow, it comes
Mm-hmm.
up regularly in coaching.
Mm-hmm.
I love my dad. How would I ever say no? Well, then you have not learned to say no even to your dad and to say yes to yourself.
Wow, powerful. Mm.
Yeah. So how your childhood was is not an indicator of an easier or harder time on the journey of the hero's return to yourself.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I love that I love that we lay it out, that you lay it out again and again and again, coming back to this taking like responsibility for your own life and not pointing fingers at that case at your parents, because like you say, I mean, there might be like very rare exceptions of parents, but then again, that's also, I guess, related to trauma then, but like where really the intention is not to bring out the utmost best of their children, like 99% of the time that's the case. And I can see that so much. Like I can
Of
see it so
course,
much. They
no,
try it like so hard.
yeah,
I can see it. I can feel
yeah.
it.
There are
And
alcoholic parents. There's violence. There's absolute. It's not about forgiving them necessarily. It's about you being proud of you have become in the presence of it because it has happened. Whatever has happened, right? Beautiful childhood or really horrific childhood, it did happen. What are you becoming because of it is the question.
absolutely. Now, Helge, you and I discovered that, and actually, I found it in my book again. So, and you were touching it in the very beginning quickly, and I wanted to have a little bit of time for that in this episode because I think it's very powerful. Speaking about the House of Life,
Mhm.
so I have it here. I see that it's the second part of your workshop, or like a new workshop or a different workshop. And I would just love to have you explore that a little bit. What extension of the archetype workshop that is, what it builds
Yeah,
on, and
beautiful.
what it includes. Yeah.
Yeah, so in September 23rd and 24th, in Hamburg, there's again the level one, the basic archetypes, understanding life, the foundation of life, basically how I call it, really understanding the dynamics, everything we just talked about, and experiencing that, not just understanding it, but then living it for two full days in Hamburg. Beautiful. And then in November of this year, date to be confirmed, is level two, how to use all this and apply it to 10 psychologically defined rooms of a Western life,
Mm-hmm.
which is body and health is one room, finances is one room, friends, vocation or job or career, whatever you want to call it, but vocation is a beautiful term for it. What you give your voice to, vocal, in terms of your professional environment, family, romance, spirituality, your physical home and service, 10 rooms. And we are looking at what is your current relationship to body and health? What is your current relationship to finances? It's not just income and it's not just expenses, but what's your number? Where do you feel safe? Do you invite it or is it not important to you? Why is it not important? What does it stand for? What's the story around it? That you will never have it, or that you can't create it, or that you're not worth it. That's just the room finances. So we break out these beliefs, or we look at them. We see the fear behind it. We see the love underneath it, and we create new realities in that. That's in November. That's the level two workshop. You do need the understanding of the archetypes as a prerequisite.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. It's very like it's a very holistic way of looking at it, and I'm looking at mine right now, my House of Life, and again, a lot of changes happening.
Yeah, it's so funny how self-responsibility creates self-safety, creates self-worth, creates a higher per hour, whatever rate if you were self-employed, or will create. a different kind of king in you to talk to your boss about a raise next time. Like it's so literally connected that somebody who feels shitty will have less money than somebody who feels great. It's not arrogance, right? But it's a realization of self that lets you go in and say, here are my qualities, and they are uniquely mine. Like nobody else can do them the way I can do them, and I'm fully self-responsible. I can make commitments because I can say no. Wow, these are all soft skills next to the technical stuff, but it's often not the technical stuff that gets us the raise. It's the how we feel about it, right? Some
Mm.
people say I'm an expert, but I don't really know how to do whatever, or I don't feel worth, making twice as much money. And it's not about just twice as much money as a dollar amount. It is what is my relationship to my worth that is often measured in, at least in part, in finances. And if people struggle financially, um, there's maybe a chance to create a different sense of self-worth. And with that, project it out will attract, and we will be able to ask for it and not attract in a spiritual, then it may come. No, it will come because you manifest in the presence of the other. You will manifest in the presence of your boss, in a conversation about your worth for the company and what you're committing to and what you're clear of and what you want and what you don't want. And like that's the employee that we want, right? We want somebody who says, I'm here 200%. I can make a commitment for 2 years. I want to take on these two areas. I think I'm great at that. This one, I already know I'm good at. This actually I want to let go of because I don't think I'm as good as somebody else, as Mike over there. Cool. Um, and for that, I would like to have a plan with you how I can get to this amount of money. We go in and we say, I want $3 more. It's like it's
Yeah.
all not, and then we think, oh my God, was that too much? It's all fear-based. Anything fear-based will create further fear. It will not evoke the other person to say, oh, I'll give you $3 more. That feels amazing. But when you say, I'm in, I'm here, like I want this and this and this and this, which you can train as a muscle, then the other side would say, wow, that's a present and committed employee. That's what I want. And they even know where they want to land. Okay, then I'm thinking of how do we get there, not if we want to get there.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You can change the conversation if you change the conversation inside. That is just absolutely true. We are our environment. We look for the friends. An abused person has a 90% chance that in the next relationship they're looking again for the abuser
Yeah.
because it feels more familiar and we're looking for the safety and familiarity. If we expand our inner safety, we will keep looking for other things on the outside. It's
Yeah, I want to underscore that so much.
the
I want to underscore
correlation
it.
is
Yeah.
so clear.
Want to
That's right.
underscore that so much also that like it sounds like in this conversation um you are sharing so much wisdom, and I'm taking it in, for example, now also in the workshop, and I'm and to me at the beginning it looked like a gigantic mountain of things that I still need to work on. But already, like, I just want to say that from a participant point of view,
Mm.
that it's really
Yeah.
and I said it in
You
the beginning,
resonate, it's
subconsciously.
reminding you, and
Yeah,
like, right? Yeah, yeah.
subconsciously it's
Mm.
playing out in your life
Yeah.
then over time, and it's like you say,
Mm.
like a muscle. It's so like I'm really getting better at saying no. It's really
Mm.
like this muscle, and it's
Yeah, yeah.
and like you say
Yeah.
also, then yes, being present and stuff. And then I was sitting down defining my values, for example, or redefining them. And then, for example, presence became on the ranking a whole different, on a whole different scale. Like it was really moving up because I was realizing, yeah, presence is so important for me to be present with someone, and that means, like you said, saying no. So it's really you're taking in what you're saying, and then you apply it, and you have to, you make like some baby steps at the beginning, but you really get there. And I feel I really feel
Totally.
the fruits of the labor more and more
Beautiful.
playing out
Good
in
for
my
you.
life. So I just
Yeah.
wanted to say that also to the listeners when it comes to workshops and stuff. Like, obviously it's not like sit back, relax, somebody tells me
Take
something.
in, take notes,
Yeah,
and your life will change. But
exactly.
yes, we get reminded. I think that's why the work is so beautiful for me. We get reminded of ourselves, and we get reminded to what is really true. It is true for me. I always believed there was ultimate truth, and then I realized when I was 15, no, it's just who has the bigger argument. But now, actually, beautifully enough, I come back to yes, there is absolute truth. The truth is you, of course, is me. And when you get reminded of that, I have to take care of Helge. It is so true that it resonates with us so deeply that we can re-evoke this muscle as if you get pinged once
Yes.
and then, whoa, now I'm awake. I realize whatever, I have to learn and it might take years, but it is that muscle that when somebody says, I'll pay you 16 bucks an hour, you say, thank you, that's awesome. I would love to make 18. What else can I do to make 18? If 18 is true for you, you will be able to create 18 because the world wants you to say what you want. The world actually wants, I believe the guy would much rather have somebody say, awesome, and I want to make 18. What else can I take on to make 18? He wants that employee. The world wants to be engaged in instead of somebody saying, oh, 16, great. And then you're half there and you do whatever you do, but not more. Like if you engage in your own life, you can create anything you want. That is just literally muscle-wise true. And those simple examples show that. I mean, if you show up, if you want to play like a dog, woof woof, want to play, you're there. You're creating. That's your inner child saying, "I want to play. I want to build a castle." In this case, it's monetary, as an example. But that energy of the lover going out and saying, "16, awesome. What do I need to do for 19?" 19? Oh, I would love to make 19. If not now, then in 4 weeks. Tell me what else. It, they will not say there's nothing else. It's 16 or nothing. It will never happen. I guarantee you. That energy is unstoppable, and that's
Yes.
just finances. Like if it's true in every relationship that you have with people, with your body, with whatever. If you come in with this, I am the creator of my own destiny, reality, and truth, because that's all I can go by. Wow, anything is possible. You can create
Mm.
whatever you want to.
So before moving towards the end and like my
Yes.
smaller questions where I always end up and that I always want to get in, I have one more follow up question to this because I actually remember us talking about it on the workshop um, and it's something that's really important to me because we talk about it in the podcast very often. And I feel like this is really nicely tying into what we just shared, and that is the differentiation. Because so many people have asked me about it, the differentiation between when you are saying there's nothing like your truth is the most important truth, and you need to speak it out and you need to live up to that, versus all of that spiritual world and kind of like abandoning the ego, what you said at the beginning. So where's the differentiation between like, this is my truth and this is what I need to bring and want to do in my mission, in my person in this life, versus like some sort of ego thing, which in spirituality and Buddhism and all, we all want to get rid of the ego, no more ego. So can you speak about that briefly?
Yeah.
What
Mhm.
yeah.
I do think its ego is misunderstood, because even in Buddhist practices, we don't say um, be a bad person. I think it is about kind, loving. I think when they talk about ego, it is the understanding that we do something to compensate with a certain arrogance or attitude, out of fear instead of following our heart and out of love. When you truly create in you with joy, that's wonderful. I don't think and if you have goals with that, beautiful. Um, because if they are true goals, if I want to run a race, I could say I want to run a race and I want to prove to my dad that I'm not that slob that he thought I was. And like, I think that's a dangerous motivation, because if you fail, or if you succeed and you think that changes anything for your dad, like if we
Mm-hmm.
prove to anyone else on the outside that we are more than we think on the inside, that's ego, and that is a setup for failure. That's what all religion, or as far as I understand, all spiritual teachings say. They don't say get rid of yourself, because when you love yourself, you love nature. Love is love is love. You love all the people, and you might love people in different ways so that you say, this person I love so much, I want to have around. We call that partner. This is the countryside, the nature I love the most. So we go on vacation there. Like if we act, for me, it always depends on how we see this life, out of fear or out of love. How do we act, out of fear or out of love? And even under fear, there's love because it's a fear of losing something. But are you safe with yourself or are you compensating? If we think more money because then we're safer, or a bigger car because then we are worth more, of course, that's ego in the sense I understand spirituality understands it. That will not lead to happiness.
Mm-hmm.
But a great car is a great car. Love great cars.
Yeah.
I don't think it's like I get rid of everything and I just have my cloth and that makes me the happiest person. Of course, simplicity. You can be happy with having little, but I know I also love design. I love design. I love a beautiful home. I love um, you know, whatever, a really nice old car, little sportsy thing or whatever. Like this is just true. As long as I don't suffer with it and as long as I don't impose on others, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think this is totally human nature and I think it's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Desire, longing, like I want this book that I'm writing now. I want to give my workshop because I love it, not because I think of it as if it was doing in the world. Like I don't know what Moxie will have as an experience. I just know I love when I do workshops. I love it. Just building a sandcastle. I don't think that's wrong.
Yeah, I love that so much. It's like, yeah, there's, yeah,
Because
I
spirituality I've
love it.
seen can I've seen it stifle joy, stifle um,
Mm-hmm.
exuberant experiences, stifle or could mean we're so in peace that we are missing the peaks of total joy because in the heels of it there might be disappointment. Sure, as a theory that's true, it's just not my experience. I love this life. I want to play and have fun, and yes, if that means I also experience sadness at times, I don't think that's negative. If I find under the sadness that it's a missing or a longing, or because I can't do both things, I like that's wonderful. It doesn't go into fear or unsafety, and I'm not even saying that fear is bad. If fear is present, who am I becoming in the presence of fear is the question. So ultimately, for me, it's about me, and in my work, it's about my clients as the ultimate truth. There's only Moxie who will need to have his relationship with spirituality at the end.
Yes. Yeah. Really, it's refreshing to hear not somebody just simply quoting some some spiritual
Thich Nhat
lines,
Hanh,
but it's,
yeah,
yeah, but it's embodied. It's,
who I love,
yeah,
but yeah,
I know it's embodied spirituality for me, grounded spirituality. Like, okay, can we meditate, but then can we participate in this life? Can we, can we have relationships? Can we go out? Can
yeah.
we can
Maybe I completely
have,
misunderstood, but I actually believe that Thich Nhat Hanh or the
desires?
Dalai Lama or whatever um, want to reflect back to us. They're speaking of their experience, and we take them for false gods as if that was the life we should live. No, that's the life they're living. If they're happy, awesome. They're reminding us of our responsibility to live a happy life for us, whatever that means. Like, it was never like the Golden Grail is not, Holy Grail is not outside of us. It is us. We are it.
Yes, speak. Yeah, so
And I believe that any religion has said that. I mean, even the Bible, if
yeah,
you
the
really
kingdom is
read it
within
from
you.
that angle, absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely, so much.
Anyway,
So two last
yes,
questions as always. What are you proud of, Helge?
I didn't think, like when I was 16 or 17, I was in a trainee session, position with an insurance company, and I really thought um, I had messed up my life already at 17. Out of school, found myself in this training job, and I thought, wow, if this, I didn't know who I was. I didn't know that something else was coming. Of course, 17, but I was literally going there knowing it was wrong, knowing no alternative, and believing I had revoked my life, like I had totally messed it up already. Like the path was so wrong that I would not find joy. I hear now with the current youth or with any youth that one often goes through experiences like that, where we are at the absolute beginning of our path, and we don't see where it will end in 40 years. And what I'm proud of is that I never stopped taking risks and looking at it, um, where I now ended up. And the message in that is, if you feel that way at any age, it's a momentary, absolute, reasonable experience and feeling, and we have no idea, because we also didn't know that we would feel that way 10 years prior. You have no idea how you can feel 10 years later. So stay on your path. It's, yeah, don't give up.
Yeah, I needed to hear this as well myself. Thank
I
you.
figured. Yeah.
And what are you looking forward to?
I recently got horses introduced to my life, and I'm a sailor and bicyclist, and so I learned so much from their presence. I love these animals. Created such a relationship with them. I'm a total beginner when it comes to riding them, but just being with them and how they react. And um, I was a dog person my entire life, and my dog passed a couple of years back at 14 years, and it was the best relationship I've ever had. But now there's a whole new world, and so I look forward to that world, literally right now, today. But also, what else do I not know that I not know it that might still be waiting for me? It's mind blowing to me that there was something that I knew of, horses, that I'd never any relationship with, that have gifted me with so much. And so I'm really curious or moved by what else might life throw at me to include new worlds that allow me to discover yet a slightly different layer of Helge that I wasn't as clear about as before. Life is
So
amazing.
beautiful. Yeah, that's so beautiful to hear that from you. It's so beautiful. There's so much curiosity within you for
Oh, makes me
life.
teary-eyed even. Yeah, there is. Yeah,
Oh, Helge, that's honestly, that's a very beautiful. Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you.
This is so incredibly beautiful, this life, if we stay on it. Yes, thank you, Moxie.
Thank
Thank you.
you. Thank you so much for being here once again. And yeah,
My pleasure.
23rd and 24th of September. Do I have it right?
Exactamundo. Yes.
Okay, workshop,
In Hamburg. Check it out.
Archetypes. Check it out.
HelgeHellberg.com. Yes.
Yes, absolutely. And also on Helge's Instagram, my Instagram, gonna share all more
Definitely.
details. So thank you so much, Helge.
You're welcome. Thanks for your invite, Moxie.